Thank you everyone for joining us for the last briefing here of January 29th. And for the week, we are looking at another kind of roller coaster of weather. We're pretty warm and mild out there right now, not real wet. We do have a strong cold front coming through tonight. We'll be bringing some breezy winds, some rain, and crashing snow levels. Snow showers will continue in the mountains for Tuesday and Wednesday. And then by Thursday, we'll see another widespread precipitation event, mainly in the form of kind of valley rain and then snow levels rising behind it. And then for Friday into the weekend, we're going to kind of see a pattern shift with high pressure developing over the eastern Pacific and the west coast. And we'll see a pretty good influx of moisture coming in, but not everyone will get precipitation out of that. And we'll also be seeing some Arctic air kind of backing up to our northeast, but probably not making it into this area. So we'll be focusing on kind of the impacts from that as well. All right, so as far as the cold front tonight, right now it's currently reaching the northwest coast of Washington. Should be into the Cascades about 7 p.m., moving into close to the Idaho-Washington border late this evening, closer to about 10 o'clock. And then moving out of Idaho around 1 a.m. in the morning into western Montana. And why this is important, well, the rainfall will fall ahead of this. Behind of it, the cold air will be coming in pretty quick, and we will see a transition to snow showers, mainly for the mountains. And for tonight, it looks like the best chance for some accumulations will be kind of in the Cascades for Stevens Pass. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of precipitation behind it as it gets through Idaho. But we will see the potential for some light snow before it does end. Winds will probably be the biggest issue, though, with this event. We're looking for gusts in these yellow shaded areas, generally in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. Sustained speeds for the West Plains, Palouse down in the foothills of the Blues will also be upwards of about 20 to 25 miles per hour. More in the 15 to 20 mile per hour range for sustained speeds over by Wenatchee and Moses Lake. And then those exposed ridge tops, especially 5,500 feet to 6,500 feet like Mission Ridge and up on Schweitzer, wouldn't be surprised to see some gusts upwards of about 60 to 65 miles per hour. The good news is we've been kind of advertising the potential for some minor flooding over these last 48 hours because we are in a very warm pattern. But the atmospheric river that was tied to this has remained primarily over on the western side of the state. And as this thing moves across tonight, it's going to be moving quick enough where we're not going to see significant precipitation out of it. So these are the rainfall totals what we're looking at through Tuesday morning. For the most part, about a 10 to 2/10 for northeast Washington, north Idaho. Probably some heavier amounts up on the ridge lines, closer to 3 to 4/10. And then in the Cascades, up along the crest, precipitation amounts through tomorrow could be closer to about a ½ inch. The only thing is some of that will be falling as snow, possibly about the last 2/10 of that before it's over. And snow levels, like I said, currently we're at about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. If you've been outside, a lot of places are in the 50s right now. And then by tomorrow morning, they will be well below all the past levels, and we're not going to see much in the way of precipitation in the lowlands, especially for the central part of the state, so not a big concern. But down along US 95 over the Camas Prairie, Lookout Pass, that's where we'll be seeing transition back to snow. So as far as our travel impacts across the mountains for tonight, like I said, the best chance is going to be Stevens. We're kind of looking at the possibility range for slushy accumulations, but then as we get into Tuesday afternoon, night, Wednesday, and into Wednesday night, I think we're going to see some periods where we see accumulations on those roads for Lookout, Stevens, and down along the higher terrain of US 95. There's also been a lot of attention for this upcoming super blue moon, blood moon, lunar eclipse, which will be occurring tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. It looks like the eclipse portion of this happens between 3 and 8 a.m. here on the west coast, which is going to potentially have some pretty good viewing. And right now our sky cover for that 1 to 3 a.m. time period where it may begin to start looks like this. So the greatest possibility for some clear skies would be out in the central Washington. But this does carry some pretty moderate uncertainty, so continue to check back if you do have plans of waking up at those early morning hours to look at this. Best chance for some clouds is going to be in the mountains of Idaho Panhandle and up along the Cascade Crest, though. All right, so then moving on, after our snow shower activity in the mountains for Tuesday, Wednesday, our next kind of warm front and widespread precipitation event will be Thursday. Snow levels look low enough kind of along and north of Highway 9 or Interstate 90 to be primarily snow, much like we saw with the last two events. But this one's going to be less favorable for impacts, especially in the lower elevations, and the reason for that is it's coming in well after the Thursday morning commute, so probably closer to about 9 to 11 a.m. we'll start to see light precipitation falling from east to west across the majority of the area, and then the heaviest stuff will start to fall more in the late afternoon and evening hours up in North Idaho and Northeast Washington. And that's why right now these guys have the greatest risk for a couple inches of snow. But if the warm air gets up here, and even if it is snow, there is a potential that the roads see very little impacts in the lower elevations, and much of that accumulates on the grassy surfaces. All right, so now going into the end of the week, so this is Friday into the weekend. Here's our pattern shift. We're going to see high pressure starting to amplify along the eastern Pacific and into the western U.S. There is going to be a great deal of moisture coming up over that ridge and dropping into our area in a west to northwest fashion. Meanwhile, there will be some very cold Arctic air coming down the Canadian plains. The divide is most likely going to act like a barrier and not allow that cold air into our region. At times, a little bit may seep into North Idaho, but we will keep this kind of boundary here. And as that moisture comes down, it's going to interact with that boundary. So with that being said, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to see precipitation events on and off, especially with more of that northwesterly flow for the central Panhandle Mountains down into the Camas Prairie, as well as the Blue Mountains, and also up along the northern Cascades, particularly of the crest. These areas could see several inches of QPF over that multi-day period, and the snow levels will not be very low. We're looking at potentially about 3,500 to 5,000 on average. Each day will change, so as we get closer, we'll have to fine-tune this forecast. But there is potential that we could see some pretty moderate rainfall in these areas. And with this kind of roller coaster of temperatures going up and down, we continue to keep a threat for some rock slides in the steep terrain, also some minor mud flows at this point. And then portions of the Idaho Panhandle, like up near Deary, where there is still some decent snow on the ground. If they start to get some significant rains late week into the weekend, we could start to see some minor flood issues in fields and things like that. As far as our rivers are concerned, again, that area down in the southeast is our main concern initially. We will see some rises up towards Bankful. This is pretty far out there, so again, we'll continue to update you guys if things change and we start to see more rainfall potential and bigger rises. Paradise Creek will also be susceptible to some of these rises, and up near Spokane, the Little Spokane River is expected to kind of be pretty close to Bankful as well, but we're not expecting a whole lot of rainfall up in that area. Looking at the mountain snowpack now, compared to last week, most locations after the last few precipitation events were now up 10 to 15%, so that's good news. Not so good again for Oregon. They didn't make much in the way of ground, and that's not good either because when we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, so this is for February 6th through the 12th, the probabilities are for warmer and drier conditions, and that signal continued to increase about a 10 to 15% from what we were looking at last week at this time. So it does look very favorable for that ridge to build into the western U.S. and bring an extended mild and dry period. All right. One last thing is we did update our URL with the PDF slides that we'll send out in a follow-up email. If you guys did bookmark this, you were going to want to at least click on the link from the email and then redo your bookmark. So that is all.